We have three tenses of this, or three steps that we want to discuss quickly. And when we do that, it will make a whole lot more sense. There is, the way I have it, slipping, falling. That's right. Is there anybody that doesn't understand the distinction between the three? When you slip as you're walking down the road, do you lay down in the dirt and just stay there? Not necessarily if it's just a slip. Yeah. So what is slipping? It's an accidental, maybe avoidable action that can bring you danger. But what do you do when you slip?
Pick yourself back up.
Well, yeah, or catch your balance and go right on. But we don't think of that when it comes to living the Christian life. So another degree is falling. What happens when you fall?
Means you didn't get the message when you slipped.
And it may not be the same sin, and it may not be the same consideration.
Could be.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't able to get your balance.
Yeah, you forget 1 Peter 5:8. If you've not turned over there quickly, it says, and I quote, "Beware of your adversary, the devil, who walks around seeking whom he may devour." Like my lid.
He's not down at the Methodist church. He's not down at the Methodist.
No.
Okay.
So, airmail.
Life's good too. Better lock everything up, Joe.
So here's the idea. The Lord says you've got three separations here that you can all understand and we can all be a part of. Slipping, falling, and then falling away. Now what we do if we're not careful is we figure that if we slip, we've all said we've not fallen. And we've not slipped, we've fallen away. And after we fall away so many times, you're out of the game. And we'll read the verses in the scriptures that talk about those who fell away. And we apply it to ourselves when we've not fallen away at all. We may not have fallen. It might just be that we slipped. Again, when you slip, what do you do? Yeah. Now what happens when you fall? Well, you hope you can get up. You know what, though? When you fall and you can't get up, what are you looking for? Yeah, I've fallen and I can't get up. No, what are you looking for? Help. It takes help to get back up. So what happens when you need help and you can't get back up? You push the button, or you have somebody to help you. Who is that? Well, if you're married and you've got a good wife, you've got an instant source. If you've got a good friend, and you've got another source. But if you're a member of the Church of Christ, we're going to keep reading here. It gets, as they say in Tennessee, gooder and gooder. All right, here we go. Though he fall, I'm in verse 25, he shall not be utterly cast down. Why? We don't believe this. The Lord upholdeth him with his hand. We count the Lord out of this. And we don't think he's got much to do. It'd be a very boring job if you were God, the way some people see God. It'd be an awful exhilarating and thrilling job if you saw him the way he expresses. And I'm on this series of the prodigal son. But when the prodigal son came home, if coming home was coming back to God, what did God do when the prodigal son came home? Sat back and said, "Go away. You're filth." Well, wasn't the kid filthy? Yeah. You barefooted imbecile, what's your problem? Wasn't he barefooted? And where's that ring I paid so much for? Not only that, but he got up and ran to meet him. And when he got up and ran to meet him, did he exchange any verbiage that would be brutal? And the kid couldn't even get out his pre-manufactured speech. Of course, I'm getting into my sermon a little bit for Sunday, but that's all right. What was his pre-manufactured speech? No, that's the world. Wasn't my fault. That's Obama's speech.
I have sinned against you.
No, that's it. Father, I have sinned, and am now therefore no more worthy to be called thy son. So I like a sound effect. It gives me an ability to add a little in. But the idea is true.
Don't let go to your head. Don't let go to your ears now.
Being in that situation, it creates a lot of things. Now, remember when Stephen was stoned? Jesus just went around, turned around, and went back and said, "Lost another one." Or did he? What did he do? What did Stephen say Jesus was doing? Well, turn to Acts 7. If you don't know it, I'll let you read it.
Receiving his soul.
Sir?
Receiving his soul.
No, better than that, really. Because he's going to get that anyway.
Acts 7?
Acts 7. I'm not going to tell you the verse. Why don't you know the verses? If you want to. I'd say you're wrong. I'd say you're closer to being right. Let's start with verse 56 and read to the 60.
So I was closer. All right, it says, "And said, Behold, I see the heavens open and the Son of Man standing on the
Doing what? You read things so fast. He's doing what?
He's standing on the right hand of
So if he had been sitting, watching what was going on, what did he do now? Stand. So motivated was he because of his child, brother, joint heir, which we won't get into all this stuff tonight, but so motivated was he that it got Jesus up off of his seat. Where was Jesus seated? At the right hand of God. Now, man, when you get something so thrilling as to raise you up off of the right hand of God, you're involved. How much involved was Jesus with Stephen? Read that verse again.
and said, Behold, I see the heavens opened up, and the Son of Man standing on the right hand of God.
Now, how is it that he saw Jesus standing? Why were the heavens opened?
To receive it.
What else?
To give him encouragement.
Yeah, man. Think about that. You're dying. They're killing you for Jesus Christ. And you happen to look up, and all of a sudden the heavens open. And what you see is him whom you have confessed with your life, and now giving your life in confession, standing there. I don't know if he had his arms held out to him to receive him. I don't know what kind of a situation that was. But I'm going to tell you, this will be enough for me. All right, keep going.
And it says, cast him up. Then they cried out with a loud voice, and stopped their ears, and ran upon him with one accord.
Why did they stop their ears?
So they wouldn't hear it.
Yeah, why?
They didn't hear what was saved.
Yeah.
They didn't know that blessing.
And you've not experienced that, I'm sure. If you've tried, if you try to preach the gospel of Christ and people just really stop their ears, then you go home and you think, well, it's me.
They don't want to hear it.
That's right. We don't ever think of that. But it's my fault. All right, let's go back to Psalms, because I can't spend that too much time on each part, but I want to go into this. There are 4 things that are evidently true when you trust in God. You will not fret. You will trust His judgment. And you will wait patiently. And you'll continue to do what's right. I can't even cut off the phone. Trusting in God is what ensures peace. It gives you peace of mind. And it fits you for your work. There are 2 burdens that are usually pressing on a man's heart. The first one is a spiritual interest in where his soul is going to spend eternity. And the second one is a temporal, how I can provide for my own. When you tell a man that everything is set right and he trusts in God, how do you convince him of it? The burden of guilt has to be laid to rest by a continued obedience. And you bring day by day the burden to victory. And it's real simple. If you're a child of God and you haven't thought much about praying during the day, hopefully at night that comes to mind. Now, a little secret that helps a whole lot of people, and I've tried to practice it in my life, is that, and I keep telling you this and nobody picks it up, that you let the day interrupt your prayer. Instead of the prayer interrupting the day. And that's the wrong way to look at it. If you continue in prayer and the day interrupts, oh, it will. There'll be things that you got to handle. But your heart is set already. When you tell a man that he's right, he has the ability to go to God in prayer, and he exercises this option many times and often. What can I say when evil comes? Why, I've already been talking to my father through my elder brother, and things are taken care of before I had the problem. Because it gives me peace of mind. The load of earthly care is cast on God instead of you. This releases you so that nothing you're involved with cares more, or you care more about, than you do your soul. Oh, I know we all have things we need to accomplish. We have deeds we need to do. We have all this other. But when you put first things first, and Jesus taught us this, we just didn't listen. The load of the earthly care and cast on God releases you, so the load of earthly care is not what always keeps you anxious and unexpectedly in self-pity. I have found that people who are involved a lot of times with self-pity are people that don't understand why. it gives you something that you don't have if you do exercise this option, and that is peace. The Bible calls it the peace that passes understanding. Jesus, and that's in 1 Thessalonians 5, and Jesus said in John 14, peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. I give a peace that you can't comprehend. Look, man, if you're at peace with God, you say, well, I can't do that. Well, tell me, you've lost the first option, the way to stay in peace. The peace of God that passes all understanding will, Paul said, keep your hearts and mind in Christ. Consequently, with an unburdened heart, we go about to do the work of Christ. And that's what we're supposed to do anyway. Trusting in God sure ensures the reception of strength for the discharge of the work that's given me. Or, as the Psalm of the Old Testament prophet wrote, they that wait upon the Lord, and we don't listen to this, shall renew their strength. You know what it means to have renewed strength? Well, do you know what it means to wait on the Lord? The effect of a man's life is greatly unmeasured by the day-by-day activity. What is the effect of your life going to bring? Can you need me to give you some chewing gum or something? The effect of your life is going to bring about a strength that will keep you going on and on. And it's going to affect your children. It's going to affect their children. It's going to affect generations to come. So why would it not be advisable to trust in God, who ensures the reception of strength for the discharge of the work? Pretty simple. Now let's read the psalm. I have been young, and now I'm old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, and he doesn't put this in here, nor does he feel sorry for himself. You know, this self-pity is a contagious disease. The person that's always going around with their lip run out or feeling sorry for myself. I like that song somebody wrote. I feel so sorry for myself I feel. I mean, you know, that's all I can do is have pity. The world is not doing for me what I want it to do. Look, verse 2. Sir?
That's the Democrats' theme song.
That's Hillary's theme song. Look at Deuteronomy 7 and 9. There might be such a thing as pious poverty. People maybe not understand it, but pious poverty is that describes a trained man in righteousness and integrity and piety, even though he's financially poor. But the best of all things that he will have to leave his family is not wealth, but a legacy. What is the greatest thing he can do for his sons and daughters? Sure, live before them, teaching the gospel. Be a child of God. The law of heredity is stronger than that of environment, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Heredity is stronger than environment. And it's as the old people in Tennessee used to say, and I don't know if you've ever heard this before or not, Grace does not run in the blood. It purifies it.
I like that.
Yeah, I always thought it's pretty clever. These old women would come around, and they'd walk up and they'd say, Brother Wilson, grace does not run in the blood. It purified. Now that's pretty powerful when you stop to think of what you're talking about. A father's prayer and God's blessings. What a combination. And man, when you got that going for you, let me read this verse again. I have been young, and now I am old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging bread. Do you know what people use this verse to teach? That a child of God will never be broke.
Oh, really?
They've not known many of us, have they? But isn't that what they say? Oh, we've got so many people that feel so sorry for themselves. And they think that the world has done them a bad deed. And they've got nothing that they can ever leave their children. Leanna and I have been dealing with this old man and old woman. And this old man's probably got 20 houses. He's probably got maybe $1 million or $2 million in each house, and he's going to probably want to get about $1 million profit. He's got everything in the world, but you know what he doesn't have? He doesn't only have God. He's been cleaned out in another way. Let me ask you, who's the richest man? The man who is blessed by God to have sons that can preach the gospel and him train them to do that, or the man that has daughters who marry men that don't know the gospel?
Well, it depends upon if they are open to learn the gospel.
Usually the man has got enough strength that he can kind of control or dictate the way they go. And if the woman does, she can win the day. But if she doesn't, what? We've had, I don't know how many people come here, and they would have been fine members of the Lord's church, but their wife wouldn't let them. Or their husband wouldn't let them. It's been rare, but few, that their job wouldn't let them. But you can always find an excuse why something won't work. And as long as you can feel sorry for yourself, you feel comforted, because you are a failure first to yourself. Why? You don't trust God. Now let me read this verse again. I have been young and now am old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Look next. He, God, is ever merciful, and lendeth. What does he lend?
The whole world.
Yeah, no. Well, which world are you talking about?
This whole planet. He gave it to us.
No, lend. He lent money, lended things.
He lent us everything too.
Yeah, but he's not talking about the world. Who's he talking about? The child of God, the righteous. He's not talking about this world that we know of. What has he lent us? Strength. He'll come along and give you help. You've not seen the righteous forsaken, yet you believe you have, because you're the righteous, and you feel sorry for yourself because you feel forsaken. There's something you ain't getting your way about. Woe is me, pity have I. You know what the admonition of the Lord is? Look at verse 27. Depart from evil and do good and dwell forevermore. For the Lord loveth judgment and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever. but the seed of the wicked shall be cast off. Now the righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell therein forever. And the mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and his tongue talketh of judgment. The law of his God is on his heart, and none of his steps shall slide. But wait, we're talking about slipping, falling, and falling away. Now the person that feels sorry for themselves, they're not getting the right cut in life. They can't get what they want. They just moan and complain and gripe. They are already a failure because the thing they didn't do was trust God to start with. If you're a child of God, either God loves you or he's a liar. Well, and if he's not a liar, then he says, I will always lend you help. He then says, and because I will lend you help, the righteous will never beg bread. Now, that's not talking about beans and taters. The way of the righteous. Turn to 1 Peter 3:12. No, they're not. Because that's too good to be true. Well, sure. No. You know why? They're not praying. But keep going. But see, we think it's the other way around. For sure. And we're not as successful as the billionaires and the millionaires and the trillionaires. I guess we're going to get a new breed of those. We're not as successful as they are. We don't have the same house. We this or that.
That's what Psalm says, money can't buy you love.
But, you know, money can't even buy you peace. And you're right. Yeah. You've got to obey. And the reason you don't have peace that passes understanding is you don't trust God. Because you know you're a failure and a flunky. Because you've fallen or you slipped. Hopefully not fallen away. If it is, we need to come see you. What happens when a brother falls away? Turn to the book of James, the 5th chapter. He gets a visit. Or he should have. Well, why? Yeah. Well, why don't you read and study? Read verse 14. Well, let's start with verse 13.
Verse 13, it says, "Is any among you afflicted?"
You know what that word afflicted means? Feel sorry for himself. Do you walk on your tongue, step on your lower lip, drag your feet, sing that song, pity and woe is me? Keep going.
Let him pray.
What a novel idea. Keep going.
Is any merry? Let him sing and song.
Not none of these rockabye, hillbilly, jumping around, stomping, slapping. When you put up, you know, I wonder. The other day I was out here mowing. Rich is doing a great job helping me out, and I do appreciate that publicly as well as all other ways. But I was out here singing, mowing the grass the other day. And some old boy came along and he says, I knew it was you. I said, why? He said, I could hear you singing over at my house. Well, I wasn't singing about, I'm going to get somebody's daughter in the bed tonight. or, none of that. I was singing hymns. I was in my own world, admittedly. But I was having a good time. You'd be surprised how something like that will help you. I'll come in every once in a while, and I've got some tapes and stuff that I play, and I'll come in and I got a tear in my eye, or my eyes are red, and my wife says, "Who you been listening to now?" The other night I got on some stuff on the internet, and there are some good things on there, or is. And man, I spent about 2 or 3 hours just being overjoyed. It was in a place where I could find that kids or children were singing. Man, there was a little 3-year-old girl. I don't quite understand it, but she was great. And there was 1, 8, 9, or 10. There was about 5 or 6 of them in a row. Argentina, Venezuela, all that. You couldn't quite understand the language, but you looked at the face and the eyes. And you got over to Italy. That was this young lady, and I knew it was a good song just from the way she sang it. You know why? She wasn't acting like a jitterbug. You could see it coming from her. And it tore up the judges. They didn't know what to say. And me, I was just, and I found some that actually sang in English that I could understand. And then I really got into it. You can satisfy yourself, but also bring peace to your heart. It's a shame that a lot of people don't know the gospel of Christ. We're doing everything we can that I know of to preach it, and still they don't get it. But think of all the people that we may be able to be reaching, and we have an opportunity to do so. Now, we're back in James. All right, continue on, sir.
Is any sick among you? Let him call the elders of the church.
You think this guy is physically sick? Yeah. Very good. Keep going.
And let them pray over him, anointing him with the oil from the Lord.
What was the oil they anointed him with?
That's what the Pentecost Jews say, the olive oil. They have it blessed.
Hold your finger here right quick. Turn to the book of Hebrews, the 1st chapter. That's just a page or two over the other way. And I want you to read this verse. Yeah. 9. Yeah. There is such a thing, you know. What is this oil? We had some holy rollers come here one time, and they wanted to anoint somebody with oil. I said, okay, we'll do that. This is the oil of the New Testament. Yeah, it's oil of the New Testament. I said, okay. What kind of oil? 30 weight? 10 weight?
I should have expected that, yeah.
Olive oil? 3 in 1? I was serious. Well, I wasn't, but it was the idea. What kind of oil? They didn't understand what the oil of gladness. Read the verse. Who's got it?
Now is love righteousness and hated iniquity. Therefore God, even thy God, hath anointed thee with the oil of gladness above thy head.
Do you know what he's really saying? He gave you the opportunity to die. You look at this a little differently when you think of God. When Abraham was going to offer Isaac, what happened? Jesus came running out of that bush and he said, that's my job. Nobody's going to get that opportunity or privilege but me. We saw the ram caught in the thicket. It wouldn't have mattered if he'd have killed Isaac. It wouldn't have done the job. That's still true. But the point of it is the attitude, the demeanor, and the way of God to give, to suffer. People don't understand that. Now, he's anointed him with an oil of gladness above who?
All else.
Above his fellows. Who are his fellows? No. Who were his fellows? Those who were in equal capacity to him. Did Moses give his life for Israel? Oh, what an interesting idea, huh? Did Paul give his life for the church?
Yes.
Yes. Who was happier in leaving this world? Did Jesus give his life to purchase the church?
Yes.
See, that's being like God. So when we know what we have as a reason for existence, we know how to be happy. I don't know if David remembers it or not, but we used to make tapes over here. And it was a laborious, monotonous thing. We'd make, what, 300 or 400. It was terrible, wasn't it? Somebody said to David, boy, you don't know how to have fun, do you? Well, they didn't understand it, but we was having all kind of fun. You know why? We were getting to do something for the Lord that they'd never even been invited to even consider. They didn't know what having fun was. There's a lot of times people don't comprehend. If you don't trust in God, you're going to be miserable. If you do trust in God and you are miserable, you're a liar. You don't trust in God. And if you put your faith and confidence in God, a society I was in one time used to say, you would arise, follow your conductor, and fear no danger. And that's the truth of the matter. Back to Psalms 37. This good psalm, you ought to memorize some of this stuff. I'm going to tell you, help you out. You can quote it to yourself as you go. Verse 20, we'll start again.
James,
No, Psalms 37.
Which verse?
20.
Please.
But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat of lambs. They shall consume, into smoke shall they consume away. The wicked borroweth and payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way.
I mean, man, you stop and listen to this, and you'll get a completely different idea. Now, I like this part. Did we read John 14? I quoted it. Let's turn it over. We'll read it.
14, 15.
No, it's 14. I think it's 27. 14, 15. Ain't nothing wrong with that verse. I don't mean that.
Peace I leave you,
Yeah.
peace I leave you.
Now listen to this. Now who's he talking to? The apostles. These, every one of them, were set up to die for the cause of Christ. Read again.
Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. You have heard how I said unto you, I go away, and come again unto you. If you love me, you would rejoice, because I said, I go unto the Father, for my Father is greater than I.
All right. I don't know how you missed this. There's so many times that people misunderstand that they have an opportunity to influence generations yet to come. As children of God, we can be what I call, and somebody else might call it something else, we might be in poverty financially. But do you remember the Bible says, blessed are they whom the Lord fills a man's quiver with many arrows. Do you ever get an idea what he's talking about?
Many what?
Arrows, ARROWS. Yeah, our sons. Have you ever noticed that the Lord blesses a certain few with sons and some he blesses with no sons? And the seed of that man cannot be continued? It's always been understood by people who are children of God that if you have an opportunity that the Lord has given you to have these sons, you can train them to preach the gospel. If you can train them to preach the gospel, your legacy in this world might not be of a person that is righteously impoverished. It may be of saving mankind, of whom he is around. So it's just the way that you look at things. But the story behind all this is simply this. The unrighteous never are at peace.
Never what?
Are at peace. They're never happy. They never think that they're worth anything, and so that's the reason they got to make everybody around them miserable. But the child of God is given something that the world would give everything it's got to have, and that's peace. Not peace at any price now. Peace because you're a child of God. And what legacy do you want to leave the world when you go? It's just an interesting question. And do you think that you can serve God and him lie all this time to you and you want to go spend eternity with him? He says, I'll never leave you or forsake you. I'll take care of you. I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor the seed beg bread. I will sustain you. The eyes of the Lord are over the righteous. He will tend or guard your way. He will bless you. What is it you want that you're not getting? Sure. And if you have everything that's physical and nothing that's spiritual, you're still impoverished. Who was this old boy that was a member of the church that started Western Auto?
Pepperdine.
Yeah, George Pepperdine. George Pepperdine was a millionaire many times. He died penniless. He said that's the happiest he ever was in his life. He gave everything he had to the Lord. And when he clocked out, they couldn't even get him for his box that they put his body in. It's an interesting life that we live. But if you want to know that God will keep you and sustain you and all that, and if you get sick, then maybe somebody loves you enough to come and help you out of your trouble. And that'll give you confidence. But don't forget, did we ever read Deuteronomy 7:9? I don't think we did we? I don't think we did. I just mentioned it. I'd like to read it before we go. 7 verse 9.
Yes, we did.
We did read it?
Therefore, is the Lord my God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations.
How many?
1,000. Oh, God.
1,000 generations. It's an interesting way that life has been taught that we have missed that the Lord has guaranteed. So, as a child of God, can you be happy? Well, my question is, a child of God that's not happy is not a child of God. I'd go to work on that if I was you. I'm happy all the time. Maybe I'm not a child of God. I'm a happy fool. I'm a happy fool then. I'm going to be something. But I'm always happy. And people will walk up to me and they'll say, why is it you're happy all the time? Why wouldn't I be? And I got a beautiful wife. I got fine children. And they're members of the church and try to serve the Lord. And that thing I drive's not a clunker. I mean, that's a pretty nice truck. What else am I going to want in this world? Not a whole lot more. 587. Would you stand, please? O heart, bowed down with sorrow, O eyes that long for sight, there's gladness in believing in Jesus there.